What's up, everybody? We just saw Captain Marvel, but in 2 different states.
Isn't that cool?
It's kind of crazy. Right now, I'm eating a tasty burger, thinking of Samuel L. Jackson.
In about 5 or 10 minutes, Vince and I are hopefully going to be getting burgers or something too. We're really hungry.
Oh, burger.
So Vince and I had to go speak at a convention in Florida, so we saw Captain Marvel at Disney World.
Yeah.
Josh, where'd you see it at?
I saw it at the Pacific Theaters. It's at the Americana in Glendale, which is a really nice, pretty theater.
Oh yeah, we've been to the one in Northridge.
I think we annoyed the people next to us a lot because we had Penny.
Oh shit.
Did she sit through the movie?
She sat through it a lot better than what she normally does. So,
All right, so real quick, let me just say that as soon as we got into the theater, everyone was riled up. Everybody was talking loudly, like you couldn't even hear it over people's talking. As soon as the movie came on, everyone shut up, like, so it was silent in that movie theater. And then as the movie is going on, people are cheering, they're clapping, they're screaming, they're oohs and ahs.
Yeah, it was a weird like hybrid of like watching football and golf at the same time.
did you guys see it at Disney World?
So it's like their downtown Disney Springs at the AMC theater there.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the it's the diehards. People came dressed as Captain Marvel and stuff. Remind me of LA a lot.
Right.
Ours wasn't like that so much. There was only one part where people like clapped and stuff, and to be honest, I was kind of leading the charge.
That's awesome.
Our audience, I love audiences like that. It wasn't quite as riled up as Infinity War, but it was proportionally as riled up, Also, I was just wondering, how are we getting into spoiler territory for this?
I don't think we're gonna be able to not do spoilers. So
Yeah.
we want to warn anyone from here on. This is gonna be spoiler ridden, because if not on purpose, it's definitely gonna be on accident. So
Well, it's funny because Vince and I had taken Uber back, and he was like, "What were you guys doing?" I was like, "We just saw Captain Marvel." And he's like, "Don't spoil it." I'm like, "We literally can't say anything."
Yeah, he's like, it's okay if you spoil just a little bit. We're like, no, you need to just go watch it.
exactly.
He even asked, he was like, "So how was the Stan Lee cameo?" I was like, "I can't say anything." So everyone listening, this is your last spoiler warning, because we're gonna get into the very beginning of this. That opening logo, we were tearing up. Oh my god.
I legit almost cried. Like, I didn't want to look at my wife because she would probably make fun of me.
It was so heartfelt. It was just amazing to see. I didn't even realize that it was that many cameos.
Oh yeah, dude.
But now thinking about it, it's 15 years or whatever years of movie. You know what I mean?
There's places online where they put them all together, and there's even stuff that he was in that's odd. Like, he was in Princess Diaries 2, I think it was. And then he was in obviously Mallrats, and then another movie before that. Like, it's weird how many cameos he's had even outside of the Marvel universe.
That was spoilers there when you see Stan on the bus and he's reading the Mallrats script. Did you notice that?
No, I didn't realize he was reading the Mallrats script.
And he's like going over his line, and he says it like over and over again as Carol Danvers is like walking through the bus to find the Skrull.
How cool was that scene too? Hunting the Skrull on the train.
That was pretty cool.
I love that the people tried to like stop her from beating that old woman's ass.
The only thing that I had took issue with about that is like, you just saw the old lady do a backflip and spin around the pole. So I don't know, like, it was weird. I don't know, but sure, it's fine.
I love that the people were like getting into it. They're like, "Whoa, what?" And like, not just on every other movie where they just kind of stand there and watch, or run away.
Right.
They're like, "This is LA in the '90s. This is normal."
They're just staring. It was like they all froze in their tracks.
I don't know if they released a soundtrack or not, but the amount of 90s music, I was loving it, but at the same time it started to be like really cliche about towards the end of the movie, and you're like, all right, we get it, it's the 90s.
Really? I loved it. And when Just a Girl came on in that final battle,
oh yeah,
like, I cheered. I might have been the only one, but I was like, fuck yeah. Like, just because there's been so much controversy around Brie Larson's PR tour with this movie. And it just went even further with the movie. So if you hated that Gillette commercial, if you hated the Brie Larson like inclusivity PR thing, you're gonna despise this movie.
That's so unfortunate. It really is unfortunate.
I feel like that got blown way out of proportion. There's an argument at some point to be made where you don't want to push inclusivity so much or diversity so much to where it doesn't feel natural.
Yeah.
Then the movie starts losing a little bit of something. But at the same time, like that got blown so out of proportion. It was ridiculous. People are just like complaining constantly. Like, you haven't even seen this movie. You have no idea what's in this movie.
I saw the quote that Brie Larson had about like her, the controversy, and she said she just wanted to bring more seats to the table.
Yeah.
And I was like, why did people take issue with that? Like, I don't think we saw the same clip,
Yeah, well, they obviously, someone had chopped it up to piss one side off or whatever. But she was just basically saying like, hey, these press junkets and whatnot are mostly white dudes, and it's not representative of America. Which, like, okay, like, to a point, I'm like, yeah, that's totally true. That'd be cool. But at the same time, you're like, well, people generally choose one thing or another. Like, it'd be kind of weird to kind of like, hey, let's rowdy more people into this profession just because.
Yeah. But I think it's like, but it's just like, it's like journalists that are already in the industry. They're just of minorities or of color or some underrepresented group.
Yeah, so they wanted to just get more representative picture or snapshot of those people in the press junket.
Yeah.
Which totally, okay, fine. Yeah, go for it. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly. But I think the thing that I was imagining, though, was when they were, once again, I mean, we've already gone deep into spoiler territory, but like when she's having the flashbacks and you're seeing all the guys say like, what, it's called a cockpit, right? I immediately pictured like 20 friends growing up in Indiana would say that unironically, and so seeing someone who looks like them say it in a movie, kind of like a villainous character, is probably going to be a gut punch,
Yeah, that's kind of what I see as such an unfortunate thing, because you're gonna just see all of this like male testosterone, like all these insecurities flying all over the place online.
Really, like, the story wasn't, we're gonna shoehorn in this like strong female character. She just was a strong character that happened to be female. But I think since she's taking the mantle of like the Iron Man and Captain America thing, just based on before the movie came out, I'm always smelling like all this, I don't know, the insecurities are gonna really come out from people.
I'm very attracted to strong women.
Yeah,
I'll just leave it at that.
Dude, she was so cool. Like, I left so emotional, but in a really good way, like the opposite of Infinity War emotional.
Being a reader a little bit of the comics here, it was a definite departure from like the Marvel that we knew in the comics. Because while she's like strong physically, she, she's very take charge, very, very army.
Air Force, yeah.
So she had that kind of characteristic of like just being a super strong woman, like in general. And I think we kind of missed that a little bit because she was kind of soft-spoken a little bit and more jokey.
It was oddly jokey for this.
I loved it, man. Like, especially with all the Skrulls humor,
Oh, see, I wasn't prepared for it. Maybe that's what I mean.
Well, also, how there's been all this like speculation of Goose being a Flurkin, and the moment like the Skrull like winced at the Flurkin and Fury held him up, and then the Skrull was like, that's not a cat, that's a Flurkin. I cheered. I was like, they went there, they committed, like, we're gonna be that. We're gonna go all the way. That's the yellow spandex, we're going for it.
Yeah, sorry, still eating my burger. However, in the comics, his name is actually Chewie.
It's funny because you think they could use it because it's all under the same umbrella, but I guess they're just trying to keep it separated.
Well, I think that they tried to go with like
the Top Gun route.
Yeah, Top Gun reference.
Especially because she's an Air Force pilot. It all makes sense.
The chemistry between I can't remember her name, Photon's mom, Maria and Carol, it was so good. Like, it was like, like a close female friends that weren't like trying to play it off as either girly or lesbian, and like they're just normal women who have who love each other in like a family, sort of way. And like, I totally bought it. Like, I think it worked really well. And then that little girl, like, everyone in our theater cheered when she was like, what kind of example are you providing for your daughter,
The little kid was a great actor, and I thought that interaction was just top notch. Yeah, that was
And because that little girl ends up becoming like something important in the MCU, doesn't she? So when everyone was waiting, everyone was waiting on Captain Marvel to come out, and they saw like the first trailer and it said Maria or Photon Rambo, they were saying that like Maria Rambeau was Photon's mother. So it would make sense if, that little girl, she's what? She has to be what, like 11 or 12 in this movie?
Mm-hmm.
And then Carol's away for 20 years and she comes back and this little girl's 30 and she said she was going to build a spaceship, like she could become a scientist or a superhero or both or something. The only reason I know about Photon and her being Maria's daughter is because when I was a very little kid, I went to a Catholic church flea market and I bought a Marvel board game and she was one of the characters and I thought her outfit was cool.
Yeah. She becomes Photon, Pulsar, and Spectrum, I think.
Oh, Spectrum.
There it is. So she's gonna. I mean, it'd be wild if she comes back in Endgame because she'll be in her 30s by then.
Which is kind of weird. So does Captain Marvel not age in the MCU?
Well, she has Kree blood running through her veins now.
Okay, so it means slowly age.
If you think about it, you guys remember Interstellar, right?
Yeah.
In Interstellar, time is faster on Earth than it is in space. He's away for like 5 years or whatever, but it was like 15 years on Earth.
That's true. That's actually physics, like real physics, because astronauts who go to the moon or orbit the Earth age slightly slower than people on Earth.
So it kind of does make sense that she didn't age because she was on the other side of the universe.
I don't think it would be age, though. It would just be time not locking up the same then, right?
In her sense, she might have only been gone for a day.
Correct, yeah.
But on Earth, it was 20 years. Yeah, look at you, Vince. You're bringing physics into this game.
I know. Usually, I'm where you're at when I think of those things.
Yeah, I'm recording in the bathroom, so we don't have the delay between Vince and I. I'm not pooping yet, but I'm feeling one coming on. So.
Just being in the bathroom, you're like, no, now I think I do have to go to the bathroom.
Well, also, the last few hours, I've been so jazzed about seeing Captain Marvel, like all my senses turned off. So I think like the adrenaline's leaving, and I'm like starting to catch up. Like, oh, I'm hungry. I probably need to use the bathroom.
I had to leave to get Penny a drink twice.
Oh, mother.
Oh
man, and I missed like some of the introduction of Coulson I missed.
Oh, when he arrives at...
Dang.
That was one thing I was sad about. I was sad that Coulson didn't have as bigger a part in the movie.
I like how they established that he was a good guy and smart, like in that stairwell scene.
Mm-hmm.
Off the bat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, because this was his like intro to S.H.I.E.L.D. He was like a brand new agent, and to make that call where they're, it's like Fury and Danvers, and he like decides to let them go. Like, that's the Coulson we know today.
Yeah.
So it was just like very heartwarming to know that he was like that when he started.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's always been awesome.
I was just wanting more of him.
Yeah.
In the movie. I was excited that he was in the movie, and he was kind of like a sprinkle him here and there kind of thing.
It was pretty funny how like the Skrulls, just like the deception and everything. I really appreciated the script that way. But these are not the Skrulls I am used to.
Yeah, me neither.
Coming from the comics and then watching this movie, I really like accepted it anyway because of how well it was written, and the movie has a lot of heart.
Yeah, it was really weird though, because Kree are jerks, and then the Skrulls are just slightly worse because they can infiltrate and they just take over places. And they've tried to take over Earth like several times.
Yeah.
And I was hoping that they'd go for like the more of the secret invasion storyline.
Oh.
And I was super excited about that.
The Secret War.
Yeah, obviously they didn't do that. They actually went like a route which was kind of odd to me. That like, oh, the Skrulls are not that bad.
They're just looking for a home.
But also,
exactly. Oh, there's lost puppies.
I want to believe that they're expanding these universe. That it's kind of like humans. Not every human is going to be good or bad, and not every Skrull maybe. So we might still encounter, because even the gal that ended up being Marvel. It's so funny because everyone thought that Jude Law was going to be Marvel, and so that it being that woman, that scientist, proves that like not an entire race isn't going to be a certain way. So I think that might be they could always use that for the Skrulls later.
Marvel, who is historically a dude in the past, and actually like one of Ms. Marvel, Captain Marvel's, love interests or whatever.
Oh.
Like, I was a little thrown off by that. I was like, why? Like, why did we?
That was another reason I thought that like some guys might like hate it, because it was like a gender flip.
Mm-hmm. I'm not a big fan of those, especially with like he was a big comic hero with his own comic book, so like I was not happy with that. Side characters and being able to like fit people in with adding a little bit of diversity, like I'm okay with that. But when you start gender flipping people that we know for a long time, like in the storyline. Marvel's been pretty good so far of keeping characters certain ways, and this was a little thing that kind of was like, I'm not a big fan.
It's almost like they had to make small changes just to make the movie work with the source material, and then they had changed a few things and then probably got to the point of where they realized we probably have to change all these other things too now. I don't know whether it like worked against them or for them, and I guess we'll find out with how well this movie does, but I wasn't mad at it.
Yeah, it kind of just annoyed me because he was a hero
Mm-hmm.
in the past. I believe he died a while ago.
Right.
Like, it kind of just annoyed me that way.
It wasn't the story that Captain Marvel got Mar-Vell's blood.
Yeah, something
So,
like that. To where I can't remember if it was blood or if it was like maybe it was something similar to where like the power was transferred somehow.
So in this one, it was like it ended up being Jude Law's character's blood. So they kind of like they diverted the storyline like two ways there.
Yeah, but it wasn't Jude Law's blood that like changed her into Captain Marvel. That was the blast.
Oh yeah. Which speaking of, fucking when they reveal the Tesseract, we heard 400 people gasp at once. Because they're talking about this engine, and I guess you could have figured it out, but like they kind of like
Horror, yeah.
brushed past it so many times you weren't really thinking about it. When they get up there and the camera shifts over to the Tesseract, like, holy crap! Captain Marvel was created by the Tesseract. There's no stopping this, you know.
I was trying to remember which Infinity Stone was in the Tesseract, and we were saying the Power Stone.
Yeah, it's a Power Stone.
Okay, yeah, because that would make sense, right? Like she absorbs the power that was taken from Tesseract to put in that hyperdrive engine thing, whatever. And then when she destroyed it, the power had to go somewhere.
Yeah. Which is a different take on Ms. Marvel's and Captain Marvel's past, because like I said, they had like a DNA swap from Captain Marvel to Ms. Marvel, just DNA. So like he was already super powerful and she just became also super powerful. So it's kind of weird to see like, oh,
Right.
we're gonna try to. What they try to do is they kind of base all the superhero superpowers almost off of all these stones now, and I'm wondering like, are they gonna try to like shoehorn in Captain America as like part of that? Like, oh well, the superhero serum only works now because one of these stones got
Oh, gotcha, yeah.
Or the Hulk's gamma radiation was only because of this certain stone was in the vicinity. Like,
Hopefully they don't go that far.
We'll see. I mean, at this point, I've already trusted the Marvel Studios, but now I'm like, yeah, you got me. You're not gonna do wrong.
at some point, like when they try to, bring everything together, they're going to start making some changes, and so you just kind of have to be a little bit okay with a little bit of changes. At the same time, what I did like for so long about Marvel was that they kept the characteristics of the characters, and sometimes that's been lacking recently. Like I guess we were talking about Thor Ragnarok a little bit, and then on top of that, like with the Captain Marvel, like I said, she was really more of like very firm, very strong, very like I'm gonna kind of like almost army, like I'm gonna kick your ass kind of deal.
Yeah.
What else was there? Oh, when the mid-credits scene, you see Cap and Bruce and Black Widow all like trying to figure out what's going on, and that pager it shuts off, and then like everybody's like, "Oh my god!" And then it jerks the camera around, and it's Captain Marvel. She's like, "Where's Fury?" Like the girl sitting next to me screamed like she just saw a ghost,
I was excited
screamed too.
but, like, I was excited, but like, what? Wait a minute. How did she get in that room without like blowing through a wall that quickly or something?
I'm not.
Nobody saw her.
I'm just not
walk
questioning
in.
anything anymore. Like because she went to the other side of the universe. We don't know what happened.
Yeah, I imagine that'll be change, or there'll be like parts added around it in the movie.
Yeah, like she was sneaking in the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a couple other scenes like that. In one of the Ant-Man scenes, maybe they had shown a little bit of Civil War at the end, and it was just slightly different than what you thought it was going to be when it actually was shown in theaters.
Yeah, and that mid-roll scene fixed something that I was afraid was going to be wrong with the MCU. They showed the population counter rolling down. Kind of implies that it is happening in waves. It wasn't instantaneous all at once.
Ah.
You know, because Cap's like watching that population counter just dive, and it's like, oh, it's just kind of like waving across the universe.
Yeah, since it did happen, it didn't all happen at once. You know, like even at the end there, like you saw a couple people who go here and there. You know, maybe it does kind of like wave across the globe or something. Who knows?
Yeah, and then of course, everyone stayed to the very, very end, and then watched Goose vomit up the Tesseract. It's hilarious.
That was so funny because right after that mid-roll, I like turned to Rod and I'm like, dude, I wonder like how they ended up recovering the Tesseract from Goose. Like, I wonder if I go back and I watch like one of the Thor movies where Loki comes down to take the Infinity Stone from the Tesseract, if they had like mentioned anything in the dialogue of that movie, I still want to just go back and do that anyway to see like what Fury says about possible connections to Captain Marvel. I think that would be interesting to find out, but to see Goose at the end there throw up the Tesseract, just like, oh, well, they just answered my question for me.
Yeah, I was wondering. I was thinking, like, wait a minute, did they always have the Tesseract? Has that been for a while? Like, when did they get that? I thought they found it in the ocean.
I know. I gotta rewatch it. That was such a long time ago.
Yeah, see, that's why
that was like half a decade. That was half a decade ago now, right? So
maybe it was Marvel that found it and was using it out of the ocean.
Oh, that'd be a good theory.
I like also rewinding a little bit to what was going to be the big showdown between Marvel and Carol Danvers, and he's like, "Oh, I'm impressed. Like, now beat me without using your powers," and she just blasts him across the room. It's like it just really subverted that moment that was going to be like a teaching moment. It's like, no, I'm a dick.
For a second, I thought, oh, it was gonna come around in circle. Like, no, I'm actually a good guy. Like,
yeah.
Wait, what?
That was a great twist, man. I didn't see that coming.
It was funny. When he was sitting there talking, I was like, she's gonna
It was so intriguing the way they kind of leaked her memory in the movie too. Like they gave us little pieces at a time, and then we start putting it together just like she was in real time, pretty much.
Oh, and then also, seeing Fury write, the Protectors Phase 1. And then that reveal. So some friends who have YouTube channels have pointed out in the trailers for Captain Marvel, there's a blank space between Carol and Danvers. Like they photoshopped out something, and now we know it was Avenger. So like now it's kind of retconned, but like in a good way. She was the first Avenger,
Well, still, it would be Cap was the first.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, Cap is the first Avenger, like, by title and by, like, of the official team. But, like, she's the one that...
Well, because that was World War II.
I see what you're saying, because he was before in time. But I guess maybe...
And he was the first super soldier.
But I mean, like, the fact that the name came from there,
Yeah.
And...
Yeah, for Fury to write it in.
But I love that they had a good story, but then they gave, like, fans, like, once again, that yellow spandex, that moment we wanted where we saw a screen of a typewriter or a computer screen where Fury was writing the Avengers Phase 1, That's so satisfying.
That just reminded me, there is a point where the Skrull gives, I guess, Fury or whoever it was, the CD-ROM of like her voice from the black box of the plane or whatever, and they load the CD in, and you see the status bar and the like thing going, and then the Skrull is like looking like, what are we waiting for? And then Fury's like, it's loading, and then you could tell like the Kree and the Skrulls, they're all this like high technology, and then they're here like with like dial-up and like old school computer stuff from the 90s. Is so great. Yeah. That was so great.
It was definitely playing up that 90s thing, man.
Absolutely. The dial-up sound.
Doesn't she get disconnected at some point in time too? Like,
yeah, that's right. She went to an internet cafe. Do you remember those?
I actually remember going to one to write my now wife Angie an email when I was dating her in like 1996 or something.
So time accurate, yeah.
That was kind of weird. Great. Like when did this take place? What year did this take place?
So there was a point where he I think it was Fury or something, mentioned something about like her being away for 6 years. And then they had given a time to when she disappeared, and I was trying to like do math in my head.
Oh yeah, I think wasn't it the end of the 80s? So
89, I think.
Yeah, so it was like 95 when this all happened.
Okay, so 95. So that 95. Makes sense. Just a Girl, did that come out in 95?
Let's take a look.
I think that came out in like 96, maybe 97.
See, no doubt. Just a Girl.
That's a good question.
Because I mean, Dookie came out in maybe the end of 94.
Oh no! Look at this. They got it. Tragic Kingdom was released on September 21st, 1995.
Oh dang!
Killed it. Had some TLC in there.
And Vogue and Salt Pepper. Yeah.
You were singing some Waterfalls on the podcast the other day. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
That's so weird. Yeah. Well.
Dude, I just got a notification on my so on Facebook and Twitter I posted guys who hated that Gillette commercial are going to despise Captain Marvel, and people who've seen it are like liking and laughing all that stuff. And our friend Fancy Teeth, who's another YouTuber guy, he just put the GIF of Mr. Burns doing excellent.
Just to piss him off at some point in time. I understand, like I said before, there's an argument to be made, but dude, this movie was not that at all. I mean, obviously they're giving a little jab here and there with like the, girls, hey girl, give me a smile kind of thing or things like that. But that's not like what they would call SJW garbage. It's just kind of
like a reasonable person wouldn't, but the people who are complaining about stuff already are gonna just shit all over that, like.
Well, I feel like they want attention and they want the clicks because I came across this website the other day and I think it's called Cosmic Book News or something. And it's trying to play off, I think, maybe Comic Book Resources or another, like, legit news one. And they just keep bringing up this BS garbage about, like, oh, no, the Avengers is in trouble. Miss Marvel's in trouble. And I'm like, what on earth is this? Nobody has seen this movie. So there was also an article that I think we'll talk about it on the podcast, but it was, like, talking about Rotten Tomatoes had, like, shut down the comments. I actually went through that. Like, I went through I think there was only 5 pages of like comments. There was a lot more of the clicking on I'm interested or not interested, but there was only like 5 pages of comments, and I went through every single page. And 98% of those comments were like, oh, I'm interested. Like to see this. Oh, great. And there was like 1% being like, I don't know if this is going to be shoved down our throats, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess you can be that. And then there was 3 or 4 being just absolute dirtbags. And so, like, I feel like, the one side is blowing it out of proportion. They haven't even seen it. And the other side's going like, oh my gosh, these guys they're going to be so angry and upset. And like, so they're kind of playing off each other. And it's just pissing me off. Like, just watch the dang movie.
I think the big issue with that was the downvotes. I think it was like, because it's people creating multiple accounts just to downvote it,
Yeah, but how do they know they're creating multiple accounts at the same time?
It's something Rotten Tomatoes had. I don't know if they mentioned directly, but they were like, people are abusing this, so we're gonna turn things off until the movie comes out.
Yeah.
So like, I just watched. So I've been getting suggested a lot of videos on YouTube where these guys are making commentary who hate Brie Larson because of her PR tour stuff,
Yeah.
And that's what I was talking about earlier. Like, I watched this video and it opened up with that clip where she was like, I just want to bring more seats to the table. And I was like, oh, this video is going to defend her, right? Because that, to me, that is a very rational statement. And he like pauses the clip and he's like, listen to this woman and her toxic feminism. Like, did we just see the same clip? What? Like, and I watched most of the rest of the video. There's another 15 minutes of him talking about how she's going to ruin the idea of Captain Marvel and Brie Larson is going to ruin the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I was like, oh, no.
And that thing that came out like 2 years ago for another movie.
Yeah, for like Wrinkle in Time, and so I don't know. It's just I understand that people say like LA's a bubble, but like then I hear stuff that happens like outside, and I'm like, like there's places that are not okay with progress.
Yeah, I don't get it. If they went overboard, I'd stick up and be like, hey, yeah, this is a little weird and this is a little obvious of trying to push this a little bit more.
Yeah, totally.
But I think that this was pretty even keel and it was a pretty fun movie.
Yeah.
Like I definitely had some like a little bit of issue with like not being completely related to the Marvel universe, but besides that, it was fun. My kids loved it, I loved it, and I think that it's just going to come out. People are just going to be like meh and move on.
I think in the long run, it's not going to be an issue, but I think like at the immediate moment, there's going to be a little bit of drama about it. But like there were so many things. It was very similar to like Captain America in the way that there was no love interest, or anything. Like she didn't fall in love with Jude Law and have a big conflict of like, do I kill him or do I love him? Like like She's just like, I'm saving families across the universe. I'm doing what's right. I'm standing up for what's right. I love movies like that.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was kind of weird that she killed some of the Skrulls, and I was like, and then she had this change of heart, and then she's killing some of the Krees, and I'm like, like when she blows up the spaceships and stuff at the end, I'm like, it's just really weird to me. Like, I'm gonna save some people, and then blows it all.
I guess.
Well, she did give them a chance to escape. So
yeah,
that's true. She did be like, "What's up, dude?" and just let him escape.
Yeah, that's where we get Ronan later,
which was cool to see. That was great.
Yeah, I was glad to see that Ronan the Accuser was actually in his almost comic form, to where I've come to basically purge this planet if they're not gonna listen.
Yeah, and I love that he had, how Linus had his safety blanket in Peanuts.
Yeah,
Ronan has his hammer, and I totally get it.
It's his security.
Because every scene of Ronan, he's holding that freaking hammer. It's like, dude, what do you take a shit with the hammer too?
I'm pretty positive that's how it. I don't think I've ever seen him without the hammer. Whether it be in comics or cartoons or whatever.
I could probably even see the thought process in my head. Yo, if he's not holding the hammer, he's just gonna look like the guy standing next to him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was really hoping that it would be more of a secret invasion kind of thing, to where, the Kree come and they're like, okay, Skrulls are going to take over this side of the universe, and we need to take over this side of the universe, so we're going to both battle over Earth.
Right.
I was really hoping it to be a little bit more of that.
Yeah.
Game. But this is fun.
Well, before we saw the movie, our friend Gary from Sneaky Zebra had commented very vaguely, I didn't initially like where they took the direction they took, but because of how good the performances were and the message of where they did take the direction, he couldn't complain. He's like, who's going to argue with protect your families?
Yeah, that's a hard message to be mad about.
I like though that they made the Skrulls a little bit goofy.
Yeah,
because
so
when
funny.
they're first kind of introduced in the comics, and in certain parts of the comics, they get goofy.
Yeah,
they're a little odd.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know much about the Captain Marvel mythology, so I guess part of the reason I wasn't as upset about some of the changes is I didn't know them in the first place, and I liked the version I saw. So,
which is, to me, is kind of sad sometimes, because us that have and know, which is why when we talked about The Last Jedi, and I'm not going to get into that, people that were people that followed all this great, amazing amount of story was pretty much completely just cut off.
Yeah.
And so with this, somebody that follows, they're changing a little bit more than what you feel like they should. At what point in time is it the same story?
Right.
It's that philosophical thing. When you had philosophy class in college, I can't remember who the philosopher guy was that was like, hey, we have this one ship, and we take a piece off of it every year that breaks and replaces it. When one day we're going to completely replace this ship, is it the same ship?
Right. Is this the same character anymore?
Exactly, and that's one thing that I'm just a little scared about.
As long as they didn't cast Halle Berry.
Because X-Men was a little bit that way, to where they're just changing things,
right?
To where Rogue, Rogue doesn't have the powers, and this doesn't have that, and that's what we get kind of pissy about. We're okay, that's not how it is, to where they're just screenwriters come in and go, we'll just change everything. There's a line,
They're upsetting the fandom. And of course, it is true. All we want to see is these superheroes on film, but we also want to see them, as close to the comics as possible. And even though they did take a lot of liberties in script and changed a lot of things from source material, I still felt like I saw Captain Marvel. So that's. I
wonder how she's gonna be in the Avengers movie. I really wonder, how you said they had erased some of the parts in the trailer where they said Avenger on the photo. A lot of people had taken that Avengers trailer that we have.
Yeah.
And there's obviously a spot missing for somebody.
Yeah, it's gonna be her. Oh.
And they're like, who's standing here?
Yeah.
It's probably her.
It's gonna be her, totally.
So I'm wondering how she's gonna have changed, even not just storyline changed, but under direction of the Russo.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm wondering how that's gonna roll.
Right, because who directed Captain Marvel? I'm actually intrigued to see that as well. How different the character will be under different direction.
Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck.
Okay. I wanted to talk about Fury a little bit too, because we kind of fill the gaps, or this movie kind of fills the gaps, not only with just the Marvel universe, but with himself as a character as well. We get to see how he loses his eye. Like, we get to see him as a young SHIELD agent. You know, we get to see how he operated, because in these other movies we do get to see him operate in a sense, but this was like it was just him and Carol Danvers for most of the movie.
Yeah, it was a good dynamic.
Yeah, they did work out together.
There's a point in the movie where they get locked in that security room, and Fury does the old trick with like a piece of tape and like trying to get the fingerprint off of the thing, whatever, to open the door, and then Carol just like blows the other door with the photon blast. And he's like, "Why didn't you freaking do that when I was messing with the tape?"
Oh yeah, he was like, you watched me play with this tape,
Which kind of like is weird to me, because he met her in the bar and she already blew up the jukebox, so he knows that she could do it.
Right.
So why didn't he just be like, "Hey, blow a hole in this wall for me," you know?
I guess the implication to me was he's a new agent, so he's not on top of things yet, you know. So like the whole like supernatural thing and all that stuff is so new. You probably saw it, but in the moment he was already juggling, like trying to turn her in and everything. It just,
Yeah.
I mean, because I forgot about it too. I was watching it, I'm like, oh, they're stuck in a room.
And that goes back to what I was just saying. You know, we get to see like evolution of all these characters, Coulson, Fury, and I'm loving it, man. When I left that movie theater, my heart was pounding.
Yeah.
I couldn't stop like reminiscing, like seeing the scenes in my head over and over again. This is a movie just like Infinity War that I want to see 7 times in order to just like absorb everything that's going on.
Yeah, I definitely want to see it again.
Yeah, I might have to see it every week until Endgame. Like, we have AMC A-list, so we see it for free basically, and there's just nothing's gonna like satisfy that until we see Endgame, you know. So
True.
Yeah.
And then
Well, you know what? Captain Marvel's coming out next month, which is funny because today I was driving down the road and like I saw a sign, like I don't know if it was like one of those bus triangle signs or whatever, and on one side it had Captain Marvel, and on the other side it had Shazam.
oh yeah.
So I was like, hey, it's Captain Marvel, and then Captain Marvel.
I think Shazam's gonna be really good, but it's gonna be hard for
pretty
Shazam
silly.
to fill the same place in my heart as Captain Marvel did.
Mm-hmm.
there's no possible way that's going to happen.
I don't know, man.
This was such a buildup.
Yeah,
And-
it was a build-up because of the whole universe.
And then, you know, Shazam, it's just going to be an origin story movie.
I feel like Shazam is going to be way more fun.
Yeah,
I
Like
believe
funny laughing kind of thing. I don't think I can't remember the guy that plays the bad guy in it. I don't know. I don't see him being like a big bad.
mm-hmm.
it. Okay.
But it's going to be more focused on just the kid's journey.
yeah.
Which is great, too. I ain't mad at that either.
I love Zachary Levi too, so I'm actually really excited for this movie. Like, so I don't like DC, hopefully, and I heard Cavill is going to be like thinking about continuing as Superman as long as he's got some, you know, things he wants to, you know, say, hey, I'll do it as long as this happens. Hey, you might have a resurgence in the DCEU. You never
We'll
know.
see. It's gonna, it's like an X. It's gonna take a while. It's not impossible, but it's definitely harder.
Yeah, seriously. What about the CGI in the movie? How'd you guys feel about that?
It was on par to me as like, Spider-Man or something else. I mean, there's some parts that I thought were being really critical of me, like, oh, that's CG, but I mean, I can't do it, so. And it was better than any of the DC stuff.
There was this organic fluidity of effects that they did that just made me feel it almost felt real. It like there was the point where the plasma blast, like she blows up the engine, and all of a sudden you see the slow motion of all the things getting blown by, and it matches with what you saw in the very beginning of the beginning title, and like everything I felt so real and fluid and organic, and nothing was like edgy or gritty, or you know what I mean. Everything felt very fluid, and I appreciated that a lot.
Sometimes that kind of stuff, it takes me out of the experience. I'd almost rather have a puppet as opposed to like, a fake.
Right, using more practical.
Yeah, you know it's there and you can't question that it exists.
It's not like a Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, or Men in Black.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The only parts that I thought were kind of annoying like that was when she was in space, like flying around, like, and it's just her. The spaceships look great, the explosions look amazing, but like she just got a little bit rubbery looking. Sam Jackson looks great. Like the facial stuff they did on him is amazing. Like they made him look younger. He looks like exactly like he was in that 1998. What was it?
Shaft.
I used to love that movie, Loaded Weapon.
Oh yeah.
He looks just like he did in the 90s, which is perfect. But yeah,
At first I was kind of mad at at the very end, Carol flies up into space to fight off the Kree, and she's not wearing her helmet. But then I thought about it, and because the times before she had used her helmet with the air thing and everything else. But there's that scene all before all of that stuff where she's falling to Earth. She was fighting Marvel up in the spaceship or whatever, and he like deploys his ship and she's on top and they both fall to Earth, and that's when she like really unlocked her power, and all of a sudden she doesn't need the mask anymore. She's flying around, she's glowing. So I understood why she didn't need the mask at the end, but there was a little moment to where like, oh god, here it is again, like Star Wars, like gravity doesn't pertain to anything anymore and you can breathe in space. But it all made sense later on.
I was hoping that it would continue with the mask thing just because it looks cool, but
oh yeah, mohawk and all, man.
I think it was, to me, it was important that she didn't have the mask on at that point because she'd already changed the color of her outfit, and they were kind of establishing, when she said like, I've been fighting with one hand tied behind my back.
Yeah.
And so she's like in final form, so there has to be like a big visual change,
Yeah, there was a.
It's really funny though. She took the jacket.
Oh yeah.
I know that the jacket is kind of iconic to her character, but they took that jacket. She's like, I'm gonna wear the jacket. And she like blasts off into space. It's like that jacket would have been like torn to shreds, like bam. Like,
the first thing I thought was that jacket would have been incinerated by even if it wasn't by her own like energy, photon energy, it would have been by Earth's atmosphere, for Christ's sake.
Yeah. It's like what? Whatever, we've suspended disbelief already, so.
Yeah, in my head, I was like, photon energy protects leather.
Yeah.
That's the name of this one.
See, that's the branding. There you go. Photon energy protects leather.
But the Flarkin, man, that was cool. I'm glad you brought that up, Rod, earlier.
Yeah, and I as soon as he said that, I like cheered.
I think that's the part I had to go get Penny another drink.
Oh, really? So what happened, like they were at the house and the Skrulls had revealed themselves, and the cat just like rubs against the Skrull's leg, and the Skrull's like, oh my god, and then Sam Jackson like picks up the cat and he's like, oh, and he holds it like a gun, like a baby gun or something. Like, and he's like, it's just a kitty, and he's like, that's a Flurkin, you shouldn't be around that. And as soon as he said that's a Flurkin, I was like, yeah, we're going there.
The best was when they got caught up in Larson's ship, and the Kree find them, and they're like scanning the prisoners, and they scan the Flarkin, and it's like very highly dangerous, like extremely dangerous, and then they like scan Fury, and they're like human, low to no danger at all, and he's like, I think your machine's broken.
Yeah, because they kind of imply that Maria and Fury are going to have a thing.
Oh, because they kept like separating them together.
Oh yeah.
Well, because every time Maria would do something amazing, you just saw like Fury get a little chubby, He's just like, hey, what are you doing after this?
Thanks so much for sticking around. If you made it this far, we're happy to continue to do this, and obviously we want to hear from you. Things we could add or things we could change. We're in different states. Rod's on the toilet.
Yeah, I'm actually sitting in my car.
Oh, nice. The perfect ISO booth.
So totally appreciate everybody listening in.
Check out RKVC. That's Vince and I's band.
Yeah, Band's Life stuff. Check out RKVC. They're great. They're fun. And yeah, love you guys. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. On 3, yellow spandex. 1, 2, 3. Yellow spandex.
Yellow spandex. None of that synced up.
All right, guys. Talk to you later. Bye.
Later.